Welcome to another episode of the Tower 26B Race Day Podcast. This is Jim Levinsky here once again with Coach Jerry Rodriguez. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Oh, I am excited. You know why I'm excited? We got our favorite guest back in studio, Cameron Wurf, fresh off Ironman Italy champion.
Well, I'm actually fresh off the Tower 26 beach swim.
He doesn't stop. He's a machine. This guy just keeps going. I mean, the bigger news is you guys are sitting with the Malibu Classic Distance champion from last weekend.
Who's that?
But I mean, obviously yours truly. If you haven't seen the photos, you must have been hiding under a rock. But secondly, in this show, we do have the Ironman Italy champion from this past Sunday. He graced us with his presence. He's going to be in town for 3 days. He actually came in town just to be on the podcast. So this is exciting times. Let's make it worthwhile.
It's all because of you.
I mean, obviously, he called me right out. He crossed the finish line. He grabbed the phone from his wife, and he got on the horn. He's like, I won. I think I earned a second appearance on the show.
It's a hard seat to earn.
It is. You know what? We don't let many people on this show.
Rightly so.
And to take the middle seat, I usually take the middle seat, so I gave it up to you today.
Quite touched.
Yeah. You know what? So because I'm always
eerie having myself behind me, but yeah.
But Jerry and I were saying, why isn't that a Tower 26 kit? I mean, you come all this way from Italy, stop here for 3 days to be on the show, and you're wearing a Pinarello kit. Yeah. All we can ask is Tower
colors.
26 kit. That's all we need.
I have to sort one of them out.
Let's put
have a chat to Castelli.
Let's put the baby blue Tower 26 blue on you and get you crossing these finish lines in that, because we have Kona next, right? 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, 2.5 now.
Another big news is I'm going to be in Kona with you, so
fantastic.
I'm your good luck charm.
Evidently,
you have no choice but to win, right, Jerry?
Actually, how many days are you guys there for? Before
we went 5 last year.
Yeah, we went 5. So this year
same 5.
Probably about 5. Yeah,
Okay.
About 5. Run some workouts and just spread the Tower 26 love while we're there. It's going to be a great time.
Mm-hmm. So Malibu, tell us about it.
Oh, we're coming back to me.
Yeah, I got to make it a little bit about
you. Let me tell you something. So you guys know the hype that is Kona. I think outside of Kona, the Malibu Classic, and this is no joke, the Malibu Classic Triathlon might be the biggest hyped triathlon in the world. You go. I'm not kidding. There's 3,000 people out there. There's helicopters overhead, and this is just longer than a sprint race.
Who did you beat? Miley Cyrus?
I was leading on the bike. We're not gonna get into that. But just let me say, your 2:45 is going down this weekend at Chattanooga, because now I have a goal. 2:44 in Chattanooga this weekend. Big talker. But hey, so there's helicopters in the sky. There's 2 police escorts the entire way on the bike ride. When you finish, you get an interview on TV when you finish, and then you go back to transition, you get another interview on a 40-foot screen. I've never experienced anything like this.
It's Malibu. It's celebrity land.
Hey, you know what? But I got to say, it's for
Could they fit all that in a 40-foot screen?
It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm not talking about just the hair.
Wow.
I think very highly of myself, and it's not just because of all the front pages of newspapers I've had this week either. Every newspaper, there's me holding up the sign. It's unbelievable. So I'll teach you how to go over
it is unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm going to teach you how to go over a finish line here. Get that tape above your head. Actually, we were speaking about this before we got on the air. How about the guy who won, I think it was Ironman Hamburg a few weeks ago? Ironman Austria. And kicked the tape down out of the pretty girl's hands.
Odd.
What do you think about this guy? Jerry, did you see this?
I did not.
This guy comes down. He comes down the finish chute. He's winning by a good margin. And he's got this aggression. He's slapping hands and he's stomping down. And then he comes through. Instead of making a beautiful pose like Cam here, he kicks the tape out of these girls. They're all dressed up in their nightgowns or their evening gear. He boots it out of their hands. What a jerk.
I'll make sure he doesn't get a chance to do it in Kona.
You know what? I want you to give this guy my 2 cents in Kona when you see him there. Yeah. But it's exciting to have you on. I'm really excited to hear about your experience in Italy, how you're going to recover going to Kona, and kind of how you're going to approach the race over there on the Big Island.
Yeah. Well, tell us. I mean, Italy. 3 weeks before, right? Before Kona. What was the... How did it come about? I mean, why Italy? And it's because that's close. Some coaches, some athletes may be thinking, wait a minute, is this risky?
Yeah, I'd say every coach and athlete would think that. And the fact is, and to be honest, I guess it's not something I was 100% comfortable with, but my group of coaches have sort of seen a bit of a pattern over the past couple of years, and you've got the stats here that when I do a race 2 to 3 weeks apart, the second one is generally the better one. And this year, I obviously haven't raced much at all. I hadn't raced since Challenge Roth, which was back at the start of July, which is a long time for me. I'm still new to the sport. I mean, I've done a lot of racing, but I've only been doing it a couple of years. So I'm not confident in myself to just go and turn up and feel that I can deliver the best performance, that I can. I need to know I'm in great shape. I need to actually be really confident that I'm on the right path. And I knew from training that I'd certainly done better work than I'd ever done, and I was really excited to go to a race. I wanted to go to a race and know that for sure, and that was the answer we got in Italy.
But you went to Italy, 7:46, is that right?
Yeah,
7:46. What?
Pretty quick.
Yeah, is that one of the? That's got to be one of the top 4 or 5 fastest Ironmans, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But 3 weeks out. So the question I have, which I'm sure, Jim, you would think in the same thing, and many other coaches and part of the audience, how much did you lay down in that race? Did you save some? Did you really go for it in all 3 sports? Did you? I mean, what? Lay it out for us.
Yeah, I've done a lot of swimming recently, so I was really excited about that swim, and I got into a good, the front of the front pack early on.
You were in the.
I was on Tim Don's feet. I knew his coloured cap. I think he was orange from memory, and I just followed that cap. And
how were the conditions out there?
Oh, it was pretty flat, similar to this morning.
I heard the day after the half was really choppy, so it was it was a difference in the wind.
I mean, for our race, it was really calm. It was a nice swim, and I was able to be and get a nice tow. I mean, there was quite a lot of good swimmers there, and that helps. That helps me. I find it harder when there's not many. That's why I look forward to Kona, where everyone's basically a good swimmer.
Oh yeah,
makes it a little bit more comfortable to be in that front group. So. I got in the swim, and honestly, I didn't want to get out of the water. I was having so much fun. I felt so good. I couldn't believe I was right there with Tim. I mean, I'd raced him earlier in the year in Cannes before I went to Australia, and he put 2 minutes into me in 1.9 K. So it was a huge turnaround from there. So that was the first indication to myself in the race. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm better than I thought here. And then we got on the bike. And it was a big run to transition. It was about a K from when you got out of the water to your bag, changed, and then you had to run about 600-700 meters to the full length of transition to your bike. And they all saw me, so they took off. So I just ran past them, except Tim. I let him stay in front because he towed us the whole way around the swim. And I was like, whoa, I'm running pretty well here. I can't wait to finish this bike ride. So, got on the bike and really got into them early just to sort of put my foot on their throats, so to speak, and get a good gap and make sure that if they wanted to stay close, they had to work hard to do it.
When you do that, when you get into them early, are you paying attention to anything but effort? Are you looking at your wattage? Are you looking at your heart rate? What are you doing on something like that?
No, I'm really focusing on going as fast as I can.
Yeah.
I mean, basically 40K individual time trial. Think about what I need to do to go as quick as I possibly can for that period. Occasionally I'll check the heart rate. If that's like, up in the 180s, I try and keep it around 160 because that's a marker I know I can get back down from. Once you get north of that, you're starting to get a bit, cardiac drift, I guess. And and the first lap, of course, it was 2 laps and quite narrow roads, a lot of it. So I knew the second lap with the age groupers would be quite crowded. I definitely didn't want to crash. So I didn't want to have to take risks to try and get a gap. So that first lap, I really got into them, and then the second lap I was able to be calm, and when people got in my way, I didn't have to abuse them and get them out. I just sort of casually went around and kept me calm. But also I think it helped because I couldn't push.
Right, so you had to manage it.
Yeah, I had to second loop. The second loop, I mean, my average heart rate was 138 for the ride, which is the lowest I've ever done by about 10 to 12 beats. So very comfortable.
So there's more gas in the tank.
Oh yeah, well, in theory.
I mean there is, but the way you ran, I mean, I think maybe that governor you had on the second loop because of the age groupers, that allowed you to run the way because you couldn't keep that heart rate up so high.
Potentially,
the restrictor played on you, and you had to rein it in a little bit, so you had so much in the legs for that run.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely got off the bike feeling really fresh, and once I got on the run, the plan was to, I've had some. As I've been building up my runs, I've been improving. My first half has been quite fast, and I fade away significantly to the point where I'd go through halfway in 120, 121, and then do a 130 back half 129. It's a huge fade. So the main goal for this race was also a bit of a lesson that the guys at Nike wanted me to work on, which was even pacing. And so starting out really comfortable, really easy, and just building as I went through, or just working a bit harder to maintain that pace as I went through. And I really didn't look at the clock. I saw the first lap that they gained a couple of minutes, but I was obviously felt like I was going really easy. So I thought, right, I'll stay here. Even if they close a couple more, we're halfway then, and then I can start to push. But the next lap, I actually started pulling away. So then I thought, maybe I'll have a look at my watch. And it was halfway, and I went through in 1:22. And I was like, I'm actually going pretty quick here. And I feel really good. So I just sort of stayed at that tempo. And sure enough, the next lap, I was further in front. And then you get to the last lap and, I started to tighten up in the calves a bit. It doesn't matter how slow you run, after 30K, you're going to feel a bit of soreness. And that's when the mind game started. Do I push on and try and go quick? I knew the world record was kind of close. Or do I just manage it? And that was the only time that I backed off a little.
And that showed up actually in your splits in the last 10K. You could tell you sort of
pulled it back a little bit, and
which is sensible.
Well, I felt that was a smart decision. Yeah. I didn't need my ego to prove that I could run whatever that week. I knew it was a preparation for Kona, and I'd got out of it what I needed to, and I would have loved to have held the same splits for that last 10K, but I would have had to work to do it. Right. And I didn't want to do that.
Well, the interesting thing, I think, for you, Jim, and we were talking about this earlier, is that in 2017, I think you did about eight Ironman races, and Cam's run splits ranged between 3 hours and 3:17, okay, in 2017. In 2018, he also did 6 to 8 races, and 2:52 to 3 hours. So big jump from 2017 to 2018, big improvement. And then this year, you've done 3 so far, 250, 250, 245. Another big jump again. So your trajectory is just heading straight up. And what that does is it turns Cam, in my mind, into... he's not just a biker now. He's a 245. You've done 3 races, and in fact, the 250 you did in Roth, there was a problem in that race, right?
Yeah, I had a crash a few weeks before. I was stupidly too close to a car. It stopped. I smacked into it, broke my nose, and broke a rib.
I remember when you sent me that email.
And I kind of thought, I'll have to pull out of Roth. And I just said to the doctor, what's the story? He said, well, if you crash again, you'll make it worse. But they're not major fractures, so if you can deal with the pain, you do what you want to do. Right. It'll just slow your recovery. And I thought, I'll have a break after Roth anyway. It's mid-year, and it's after 2 Ironmans early in the year. So I'll deal with it. Obviously couldn't swim much. I was a bit crooked on the bike. But the running, I carry my arms quite high, so I kind of braced and held my rib cage, so it wasn't too painful there. But it took a lot out of me that period, that 3 weeks. You don't sleep properly, and you just don't feel good. And sure enough, in the race, I felt really bad. I swam really bad. I struggled on the bike. But
you still ran 250.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's getting that bad run as quick as possible. And in previous years, I haven't had the background to have a good bad run. I could do a good run, but then I could do a terrible run. And we're trying to narrow that gap.
So the bad runs in 2017 were 3:15s.
Yeah.
In 2018, the bad runs were 3 hours. Now the bad runs are 2:50s. So the thing here is, in the past, the way I see this, the field could have allowed you to get away on the bike and go, you know what, we'll let him go. And then we'll reel him in on the run. The strategy's got to change now, because it's now a risky bet to let Cam go on the bike.
Yeah, in the past, the Uber bikers could, you knew they weren't going to be able to run. You knew that they could ride 4 hours and they're going to run 4 hours. But now you got a smart cyclist who can rein in his efforts slightly and run with everybody out there, and that's a dangerous weapon. So
it's going to be great for your confidence.
Well, another significant thing I learned last year in Kona, leading. Obviously I led twice both years, but last year I led for a long time, and it took a long time for that top 8 guys to pass me. Whoever was eighth was passing me, in the last few K, or so slowly but surely they were coming past. Everyone that came past, Patrick included, looked terrible. They were hurting so bad, which is how it should be. And I'm there like a fairy prancing along because I'm too afraid to push myself and blow up. And that was a huge eye-opener for me to say, wait a minute, everyone tells me I'm over biking. I'm not over biking at all. These guys are riding harder than I am. They're just way better conditioned to then get off and run. And it was a real confidence booster for me, knowing we were on the right track, stay with the course, and go away and work on the run.
So what have you done differently this year?
I've run a lot.
Exactly. Knowing that, what you've learned from last year, how have you changed? How have you changed the plan for this year?
Yeah, I mean, big time. I mean, even the swimming. This year I was here all January and I swam most days. I got a big foundation. Sure, that middle part of the year it fell away. I was on my own. I was traveling a bit. I crashed and other things, but I had that foundation, which I hadn't had in previous years. So then the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, we've been able to really hammer the swim, and it's in a really good spot now. The running, it's one thing to run a lot and put it in with everything else, but it was such a weakness, a glowing weakness, that it had to become the 100% focus. And when I left here this year and went back to Europe for February, I think I rode my bike twice. I was working hard on building up to sort of 120 kilometers a week, and that really hurt me. And instead of us trying to push it and say, yeah, but you're a triathlete, you need to do everything else, we decided just focus on that. Just get to a point where that's manageable and then start to ease the other things in. And we're able to do that through March and April, and then go to Australia and get a good result.
And what type of workouts were you doing in that 120K? Were you just long runs? Were you just doing a lot of base work, a lot of speed work? What were you getting in for those workouts?
Yeah, honestly, not a lot of speed work. Even when I go to the track, originally, I was planning on doing the London Marathon as opposed to Port Macquarie. And then we decided, when we started adding in some cycling again, we started realizing I don't run any quicker fresh than I do when I'm tired. Mm-hmm. And so we thought, well, that might be a waste of time. May as well go to Australia and see how quick you're running in a race. And so basically, though, we'd worked out a target time for the marathon, which was around 2:30. And so the speed work I do is never quicker than that. Mm-hmm. 3:30s, 3:20s, it's getting quicker now, but set cadence and just trying to do that economically.
So when you say we, who's the we? Let's help the audience here with, you have a sort of from my perspective, an interesting team.
Yeah.
Most athletes have a coach. Jim coaches many of our triathletes overall, and he's their coach.
Yeah.
Let's tell our audience about your team.
When I started,
coaches.
And I talked to you about this years ago, that I felt to be the best you could be in this sport, you need to have the best of everything. And a lot of people laughed at me, and rightly so. And I didn't think they were wrong. That was in my own mind what I thought. And as time's gone on, that's exactly how it's panned out. I mean, I work with the guys at Nike, and they obviously, it's the Breaking 2 group, so they're very close to Kipchoge. We follow a very similar program to the day, because his program early in the year was London. It was the same day as Port Macquarie. His next thing is Breaking 2 Hours on October 12, the same day as Kona. So we're on a very similar schedule. So
you're saying right now you're going to break 2 in Kona?
I'm going to try.
Is that what we're going for?
I'm going to try. I mean, no one's done it yet.
Live on Facebook.
No one's done it yet. Why not?
You know what? Why not? If he's going to do it, you're going to do it.
Hey, they said I run just the same off the bike as I do fresh. So, it's...
He said it here first.
Yeah.
Tower 26, Be Race Ready podcast on Facebook Live. He's going to break 2 in Kona.
Yeah. So that's worked out great. And doing... sometimes where it is hard, back to your question about what I do. So, there's 1 to 2 sessions of that sort of marathon pace a week, shorter 15, 20K sessions. But I will on a long run day, which we do on Thursdays, I run a marathon, and it's either a straight 40, 42K, or it might be a 30 plus a 10 or a 35 plus a 7, it's broken into.
And you do this weekly?
Every week. Yeah. Yeah. I've basically done that every week since February, when I first built up to doing 40K.
What do you want to tell our age groupers about this?
Oh, that's not the way you want to do approach training.
I wouldn't try this at home, guys.
Right. I mean, let's help the distinction.
I'm going to cut that part out of,
this
audio
is a professional athlete that is not doing anything else.
Yeah, that's right. So I rest the rest of the day. It takes a few hours, and then I'm doing nothing.
People are going to listen to this, and then they're going to instantly start running a marathon.
Well, they're going to fire you.
My people know better than that. Believe me. If I'm coaching you, you know better than that. But Cam can do it. Obviously, it works.
Yeah, I'm the sort of athlete too, which these guys. So Tim Kerris and the cycling side is obviously head of performance at Team Ineos now, and then Sean Kelly is in Europe. When I'm in Europe swimming wise, he came to Andorra with me for a month. He's the Great Britain Open Water coach. So a lot of experience there. And then of course when I'm here with you. So that's my group of coaches.
So you've got 2 swim coaches, you've got a bike coach, you got a run coach, and you've got a full team.
I got a full team.
Yeah.
And you have a personal assistant to put the whole schedule together, right?
Yeah.
Your wife.
Yes, my wife. Well,
yes. That's what I call my wife, personal assistant.
She's just in charge. And the thing about my wife, which...
Wait.
Yeah.
You just sort of threw that in there. When did that happen?
So, after Port Macquarie, we sort of been struggling a bit, with sport, with unknowns. You don't know when you're racing, what you're doing. So setting a wedding, and she's American and I'm, we're all over the world. We thought I would just elope. And then when I decided to do Australia, we thought, no, bugger it. We'll tell my family 5 days before that we're going to do a little service at home in Tasmania. And so we did that. And if you're in town, you got to come. If you weren't invited, because we didn't want people going out of their way. And
I couldn't make it. Did you get invited?
Exactly.
Yeah, I had another.
Well, you weren't in town.
I had another wedding.
You weren't in town, so it was most important was my mum and dad were there, and that was great. And then we came back here, and I was here for a couple of days. I swam with Jim, didn't see you that trip, but we went over to Maryland and with Fallon's family, who are a bit more religious, and so we did a service in the church. So in Fallon's way, she describes it, we got married legally in Australia, and then in the eyes of the Lord here in the US. So had a couple of weddings. So I've been married twice, because often a lot of people get divorced. So I wanted to get rid of that. I wanted to go through it twice quickly and have it done with.
A lot of change this year,
A lot of change.
But new running, different program, a lot more volume, more swimming.
Yeah, and you get married. And if you want to add someone else to that team, Fallon's doing a master's in holistic nutrition here online with a school in Oregon. So she's pretty onto that. So as far as food goes, I think we've got a question about that later. I just eat what I'm given.
And what about in training, in racing? What does your nutrition strategy look like there? Obviously, you're doing something to keep that energy up the whole way through. You got to have that dialed in. So what does the nutrition strategy look like?
The biggest difference that I've made in that is since I met Chris Froome and trained with him a couple of years ago, was he has his race food in training. I mean, that sounds stupid, but I remember when I was racing on the road before, when you're training, you're only training. So you'd have different stuff, and then you'd go to the race, you have gels and all of this. But I mean, a training session, Chris will have 5 or 6 gels, to get through the training session. And it's the same as race. And now I'm very much the same. I actually don't. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I do basic days. We've got a great training center there in Andorra where it's about 5-6K from home. I ride my bike down the hill there and I lock it up outside. I go and swim, get out, go and do my ride, come back, go on the treadmill or do a run in the trails around there. And, there's no time to eat in that 6-7 hour period. And so I'm having a lot of gels and what I have in the race. And then when I get to the race, it's just normal, and that seems to be working really well. And also I find I don't need to eat as much. So
you're going to go into, I'm going to presume, Jim, Cam's going to go into Kona this year, I would think, with a whole lot more confidence than any prior Konas.
Yeah.
I mean, you're swimming better, more consistently, definitely running. The statistics are just, facts don't lie. The facts are what they are. You are running 10 minutes faster than you were last year, and you're running 10 minutes faster last year than you were the prior year. So swimming faster, riding strong, running faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've also been in the fortunate position the last 2 years where I've been at the front. In the last 2 years, there's been me, there's been Lionel, and there's been Patrick that have led the race in the run, that have had a chance of winning.
Right.
And so that's a pretty fortunate school to be a part of, to see how it unfolds, understand what effort it takes to even get into that position. I love it how people talk about the bike. It's like, well, do you think that no one's ever tried to ride as hard as they can on that course before? Of course they have. So it's not easy to lead that race. It doesn't matter if you go flat out or you're within yourself. And I guess the jury's out on how much effort I put in. But I'm confident that every time I've ridden that bike course, it's been to put myself in a position to win the race, and I haven't been good enough. And my approach this year will be no different.
Right.
How do you think the dynamics of Kona change the way you're going to approach it. The wind, the heat, the humidity, pretty much every adverse condition you can get in a race is there except for the cold.
Yeah, so the big thing I've learnt the last couple of years, and I learnt this in cycling and even rowing, is you can't prepare yourself for something like Kona. There's just no way.
It's its own animal.
It is. And also you can dial up a room to 90% or 75 or 80 or whatever for 40 degrees and guess what. But then you get to race day, there might be no humidity for some bizarre reason. There might be, it can change like that. What I learned, and Ivan Basso was that taught me this years ago. He said,
and Ivan Basso is, let's tell.
He's won the Giro a couple of times. Yes. He obviously was second to Lance a few times in the Tour, and he was my teammate at Liquigas, and I lived in the same town as him, so I trained together with him all the time. And at the time, people were being critical about his descending. And I said to him, man, how did you, when you were winning the Giro, like, what did you do then? He said, Wurf, when you're fit, you can do everything. He said the most important, you can climb at altitude, you can race in the cold, you can race in the heat, you can race in the humidity. He said, named every different element. He said, when you're fit, you can deal with it all. Mm-hmm. And this year, and what we've learned from Kona, it's hot and it's uncomfortable, but it's just hot and uncomfortable. The fitter and better conditioned you are, the better you'll deal with it. And that's what we're focused on.
The first year I went to Kona, I think was in early 80s, 83 or 84. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
No. It's just, it's that race is its own animal, and it's going to be what it's going to be, and it's who can deal with those conditions. And like you said, the best, and towards the end of the race, that last 10K, that's where you make the money. And I've had that mentality going in the last couple of years, but then forgotten it on race day. Right. I've got on the run and gone, oh, wait a minute now. Oh, yeah, it's hot. Oh, geez, I need to do something different here. And that's because I don't have experience. I haven't had experience running or doing anything hard like that. And I did a race in China in 2012. Yeah, but before we go to China, one of the things, and we've noticed this about Cam when we first met him, when you first came to swim with us a few years ago, was this, and I talked about this morning actually at our workout when I introduced you again to the group, is you have this incredible confidence about you without being arrogant. It's sort of a sweet naivete. And some could take it as arrogance, but it's not arrogance. It's just this sort of sweetness about how you believe that you can do anything.
Yeah.
And you've proven it in rowing. You've proven it as a professional cyclist. And now you've climbed towards the top of the sport in triathlon. And you just go out and do it. I remember when we first met, the first thing he said, and one of the first things in the first workout he came to, is I just got back from Kona and I swam 60 minutes, which is a good time, as you well know. I mean, Kona, 60 minutes swim, no wetsuit. It's a good swim. He said, I'm going to swim 50 minutes. I want to swim 50 minutes. And 50 minutes is where the elite lie.
I heard Jerry, I wasn't at that workout. I heard Jerry laughing from West Hollywood. Yeah. He's like, that was
you were in West Hollywood.
Loudest laugh I've ever had. We'll get to that later. But heard you laughing from there. But look at him now.
But what I was getting at with that, I did a race the Tour of Qinghai Lake in China, and it's basically the average altitude is 3,000 meters. And I mean, I grew up in Tasmania or on Lord Howe Island with Tim Reed. We're at sea level, right at the ocean. And I thought, whoa, how do I prepare for that? You think about going on a training camp and this and that. And then I thought, you know what? It's a great travel from Australia to China because you gain time, so you feel good in the mornings. I'm going to go home to Tassie and I'm just going to train hard and just deal with it. And I went to that race and I ended up second. And there was another Anglo that got second, which was Tom Danielson. It's always run by Colombians or Iranians or whatever. And I got beaten on time bonuses. And it was one of the best races I ever did. And that was when I really learned that if you're fit, you deal with whatever. Right. I mean, there was no oxygen there, and but it meant that if your peak power was here, and you lost power, it was still here, which was relatively better than most of the field. And so it's the same approach.
Well, it's been a pleasure seeing you improve over the years. And even Andrew Talansky was here last week.
Are we allowed to bring that name up with Cam?
Well,
because Andrew doesn't let us talk about Cam in his presence. No. These two former cyclists turned triathletes, they don't like each other very much, and I think when they run into each other, that's full on two skinny dudes fighting, which is never entertaining, but whatever.
I try to give him. I think I made a lot of mistakes, and I've tried to share what those have been with Andrew, and hope that he doesn't make the same ones. But as I said to him, it's very difficult when your engine's here and your wheels are back here. As strong as your head wants to be, that gap isn't going to close quickly. And it's taken me a few years, with the running particularly, to be able to, mash them together and get the right outcome. And so, Andrew will figure it out. There's no doubt about that. Hopefully not too soon,
I don't know. Yeah, so I'm taking all the credit because he won the Olympic distance race and I came in second in this Malibu triathlon. I'm going to keep talking about this. So Saturday was the Olympic distance race. Sunday
and Miley was
classic.
third. Miley was third, or Will Smith in that one.
Will Smith was there. We had J-Lo out there, Mario Lopez. They were all part of it, and I crushed them all.
Yeah.
But on the first race, which I had raced Ironman Wisconsin the week before, so that's my excuse for not, giving Andrew more. But he said I think he averaged 5:50 pace for 10K, which is great. But he said the only reason I ran that fast is I knew you were coming for me. So even though he won, I'm taking credit for the win because I allowed him to run that fast.
I guarantee. So it's coming. If you were behind me, I'd be running pretty quick too.
Believe me,
I wouldn't be able to handle you beating me.
Exactly.
No.
That's amazing.
Wait, beating you in a race or just beating you? I catch up to you, I throw an elbow, I throw a fist, and then you leave with another broken nose, brother.
This guy ran another 3 hours in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Jared, let me ask you that.
I mean, that's dude.
I gave him a few pointers yesterday. I reckon he's due for a breakthrough.
Let me tell you something. Chattanooga this weekend, 2:44 is my goal because I cannot let you one up me in a run. That's unbelievable. Great. But Jared, so let's talk about me again. So I did Ironman Wisconsin 2 weeks ago.
We have to, huh?
Right. So I can't. A little lake, Madison, Wisconsin. It was the roughest conditions I've ever dealt with. So there was 12 male pros. They leave. The first 11 guys leave. I'm alone. 4,000 meters. I'm alone. And I get bored. I'm tired. My back's hurting. My shoulder's hurting. And they just take off. And I think the guy who ended up winning the race, he swam a 46 in these conditions. And it was white caps, swells. Every time I took a breath, I had to look straight up to get my mouth out of the water.
With a wetsuit or not?
With the wetsuit. And it was brutal conditions. Yeah. And these guys they don't miss a beat. What are they doing to swim just as well in those conditions as they do in flat water?
Well, they probably have the proper open water stroke for those types of conditions. Who was the race winner?
Some Spanish guy. Actually, if you know the name,
Brazilian,
Pedro,
was he?
He's from Spain.
Spain.
You know Pedro Gomez?
Yeah, sure.
Gomez?
Yeah.
This guy looked like he's from Spain also, or Portugal, or somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
He looked like Pedro Gomez on steroids.
He was jacked.
Not jacked, but he's just a bigger version of Pedro Gomez. Right. He spoke the same. He looked the same. His face. I'm like, that's Pedro Gomez, just big Pedro Gomez. But whatever.
So you have to recognize that challenging conditions affect really good swimmers significantly less than it affects lesser quality swimmers, and it would be the same in riding.
Yeah.
So the more challenging the condition, the slower the athlete that doesn't have much experience is going to go. Their performance is much more diminished. At the top, there's really, short of almost hurricane weather, there's not much that's going to affect these really good athletes. So 47 minutes, 46, 47, that's obviously very fast.
Yeah.
But
it's funny because I came out of the water, I was totally beat. I'm like, how the hell am I going to ride 112 and run a marathon? So the first loop of the bike, I had nothing in my legs. I just had to get through it. And then the second loop, I picked it up and I negative split the second loop to the first by like 15 minutes. But I think kind of like you in Italy, I had that natural. I was just restricted by effort in that first loop, and allowed me to have a great run because of that.
But
restriction.
You know what I was proud of you about in that race, in all honesty now and not, but your swim wasn't that great. You got onto your bike, and I remember you telling me this, that just like you said, the first loop was just sort of disastrous almost for you.
Felt horrible.
You had the bad wolf tapping on your shoulder, totally. Won it. Then you ended up pulling together a good second loop, and then I think you ran the fastest professional marathon at that race.
Close. Yeah, it was up there. Yeah,
3 hours, which goes to show the sense of confidence that you have, and also the ability to manage difficult situations when they arise. Because it's really easy to give in. Right?
Oh yeah. Especially when you get everybody's passing me on that first loop. I was like, what is going on out here?
So I was very proud of that, and thought it was really terrific.
I'm blushing. For the coach to be proud of me, that's a rare thing.
A lot can happen in 8 hours.
That's what I'm saying. You just got to stick with it. You go through all the highs and all the lows, and it's the guys who just give up when it gets low and don't realize it's a long day that don't realize their full potential. So let me ask you this, though. Let's get back to you, because we don't want this whole show to be about me.
Yeah.
when you're running and you come up
like
on,
that.
I do like it. If I'm telling you, the head's getting bigger and bigger, and it's not just the hair.
Yeah.
Did you notice the hair is growing out? All those people on Facebook love that. But hey, listen. So you're running next to the Formula One.
All week long.
Who's the Formula One driver that lost his legs?
Alex Zanardi.
Zanardi, right? So you're running next to Zanardi. At what point in the race was this? I saw this video.
That was the third lap, I think.
So it's deep in the race. Deep in the race. This guy comes by on his hand. It was his hand cycle.
No, he's in his racing chair, then his wheelchair.
It's his wheelchair. He's racing the run portion because he has no legs, and he comes by you, and you pick it up to a full sprint to run right next to him, and this is deep into the race.
Yeah, he looked hot, like he was struggling. I thought, this guy's cruising, and I wouldn't say hello.
But where did you get this gear just to start sprinting next to a guy in with wheels?
Well, you realise how lucky you are.
Yeah, exactly.
And I grabbed a couple of sponges and was trying to and squeeze them on his back.
That just shows, like,
Chris Wright brought that up this morning when we were talking and introducing it, that you're able to, have a lot of empathy for.
That's cover the microphones. Not wanting to give anything away, but that's how we wanted that run to be. That if I needed to run, I could run. Yeah. And not that I used. Dousing Alex Zanardi with water to cool him down as an example to show that I had the speed in my legs, but it definitely made us realise that that's exactly the pace I was running at, and I was fortunate that I didn't need to use it. Apart from that,
it was a touching video too. It made made everybody feel good about that whole race. So,
well, do we have any questions for?
Yeah, we did get a couple questions here. So people are wondering on recovery day, what is your typical? You're obviously doing these big weeks. You run a marathon. What does your recovery day look like?
I have Sundays off completely. Jerry, swimming. Back to being institutionalized in rowing. You're at the Institute of Sport and they lock the doors on Sunday. You're not allowed to train.
Yeah.
So
nothing.
Perfect. Absolutely nothing. I train 6 days a week, between 4 and sort of 6, 7, 8 hours. And Sunday, the most strenuous thing I'll do is I'll walk up to the waterfall with Fallon the dog and sit in the cold water and give the legs a nice.
Let's give your dog a shout out to. What's your dog's name?
Olive.
Every picture, Olive and this guy coming out of the water, going into the water. Yeah. So that's your.
She's a good training partner. Turns up every day. Yeah.
All right, nutrition. We already spoke a little bit about that. Does Fallon? Does she really dial it in, or she just puts it in front of you? You eat it, but does she have it planned out as what you're going to be eating?
No, I shouldn't. I mean, based on what we need. I mean, little things. Like turmeric, for example, is a great anti-inflammatory. So when on running days, she'll, have some sort of fish turmeric sort of sauce or. I don't even notice it now. She's just very, very well in touch with what I'm doing and my routine. She knows the days that the next day I've got a hard session. And so that'll be, normal pasta. I'm not like gluten-free or anything or rice or, there'll be something like that to make sure I got fuel the next morning. And same with breakfast, sometimes it's an omelette, stuffed with rice because I've got a big day and need fuel. Other days, if it's an easy day, I might not have much breakfast. I might be swimming or, whatever. But yeah, so she does. But no, as far as anything restriction, we just eat well. Everything in the house is organic. Everything's prepared. There's nothing sort of out of a package. And I guess I don't have a lot of dairy, not a lot of cheese or have oat milk. This is my new favorite.
Well, it's nice. It's something you don't have to worry about. You just
I don't worry.
You just put it in front of you, you eat it, and you move on. I mean, I'm the same way. My wife does the same thing. She puts in. No, complete opposite. But hey,
Fallon prides herself on making stuff that you'd think wouldn't be that tasty, really tasty, and she does a pretty incredible job. So I just don't argue. Yeah.
Good. What do we got? Okay. Do you have a plan, or do you just make it up? Well, you obviously have a plan. You have 17 coaches, so there's somebody setting a plan out there for you. So every day you go, okay, this is what I'm going to do today. You wake up, you say, this is the plan today. You don't just go out and ride endless miles.
No, so we've got Ineos or Team Sky Ineos now. We've got our own little app and our own app, and it has what we have. And so, the running coach will send that through his part, and then Tim will add the cycling onto that and put in the swimming sessions as well. And I check that and tells me what I've got to do. And
that's great.
Everyone on the team can see what I'm up to. A bit of like a circus act.
Christoph, can you make this app so we can have everybody look at what everybody else is doing with Tower 26? You can make that. The thing is, he's so smart, he snap his finger, it's done.
He's probably saying it's already done.
Yeah, he just did it right now, actually. All right, when you're doing all this, when you're hitting all this running volume, doing a marathon a week, how did you manage not getting injured?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate to be involved with Nike, so I've always got good shoes, and that's not a plug. I have new shoes most weeks, and you keep them fresh, and that makes a big difference. I can feel when a shoe goes, and it doesn't take a lot for it to feel different.
But you've also, that's sort of the short term answer, quick answer. Long term, you've been rather careful in building up. Your build up over the last several years have been gentle and progressive. You just didn't come right out and start putting in a lot of running volume.
No, and I mean we've done. It's literally been at least a 2-year period. Last year, I mean, I've run already double the distance this year than what I did last year, more than. So it's been a very slow, methodical build up, and also not doing, like you said before about the speed work and things. We don't run that quick. I mean, as we talked about the other day, I mean, a 4-minute K is not that fast in the pro field. I mean, if I think that's quick, then I'm really going to struggle to be competitive. I'm certainly not belittling that for the rest of the sport, but there's not a lot of point running a 250 or a 245 kilometer, and because when I have done that as a bit of an experiment, we've thrown some things in. You notice you really pay for that on the bike. So at the top end on the bike really struggles, whereas if we keep it scaled back, it doesn't seem to affect everything that I do. So I guess the running, the other key to what we do is I'm never really overextending myself. I'm never really going deep. Right. And because the running is very dangerous.
And it's super corrosive. So it really hurts the swim also.
Yeah. And I also have massage 3 to 4 times a week, have a lady that comes to the house. So, that makes a big difference, I'm sure. And just try and really look after my body.
Yeah.
I just don't underestimate the damage that it does. I think that's the key. You got to respect that it's really hard on your body, and give it the due care.
I think one thing you said, obviously, like, I'm always stressing slow build up. Don't do too much too soon. Don't add too much stress on the body before you're ready for it. But just paying attention to little things like the shoes, like switching your shoes out frequently, just knowing how much that adds the stress to the joints, especially as you're upping volume. So
even just having 2 pairs, I mean, I'll never ever wear the same pairs 2 days in a row. They say it takes a shoe minimum 24 hours to decompress. Every time you run on it, it affects it. And so, that's just one thing I've not done now all year is never ever worn the same pair 2 days in a row.
Smart. All little things, doing it, massage and just giving yourself the day off. All this stuff comes into account. So we're excited for you. Excited to go to Kona, and we're excited to take all the credit for your victory over there.
The finisher. Well, you're the finisher, aren't you? You're there right for that last little bit, the most important bit.
That's what I do. I show up actually right when you cross the line. I show up and get in the background with my, with
your Tower 26.
I always know where the camera is. That's for sure. Jerry knows it. You find a camera, I'm in front of it. Not behind. I'm in front.
You and Miley, and they're in Malibu.
Yeah, that's
Malibu Olympic.
You know what? Like Pacific Palisades, Malibu. All of us hang out in the same circles. We got any more questions there, Christoph? I know this is a heavily listened to Facebook Live episode, so we're good. We're going to cut it there. But you're also following when you're on the road, do you follow the Coaching That Tower 26 plan throughout the season? So that's why you run through those transitions so quick and you're so race ready, right?
Probably, I'd say it definitely has an impact, I
mean, it's easy.
I got to make a confession. I don't ever get out of the pool and do those ones when I'm on my own. At the pool in Andorra.
Now we're talking about who's too cool. Too cool to get out and run.
I just think the people in Andorra might think Cameron's lost his mind. Like, he keeps getting out, he's jumping back in, and he's getting out.
That's how you should be.
So you saw me yesterday. The first time I tried to get out, I fell back in. I hadn't done that for a while.
And then he rolled out. He was like a bear rolling out of hibernation. So, in going into when you get to Kona, you get 2. What is it going to be? 2 weeks by the time you get to Kona?
2 weeks. Exactly.
Now, what's the plan? I mean, are you going to keep the same training when you get there, or are you going to scale back?
I mean, the plan is this week just to obviously get over the race and then get over the travel. It's 12 hours time difference, so break it up a bit. I settle back into this routine. I've come here so much pretty quickly, and this not a stressful few days, and then once I get to Kona Friday, get there, get settled, and then another good day Saturday. Have my Sunday off. Good. I always have Sunday off, and then I'll do a normal week next week. Yeah. So very normal hard week, and that'll be a real tune-up week, and then it's race week, and of course we scale it back a bit. But I'm really looking forward to the ocean swim. over there, the race on the
great.
Saturday before. That's I love that. That was great last year.
There's a training swim. There's actually a race, but a lot of guys go over there and train the week before the race. It's a Saturday or Sunday the week before the race.
Saturday,
it's a heavily attended race.
It's pretty funny because last year I noticed. So I actually had a pretty good swim. I was in the front and I got out and walked around. I was fiddling around, and I noticed the other guys, Patrick and a few others, they'd rush out of the water and then they'd like pull their swim skin down, then they'd stand there, at the finish line, sort of waiting for Lionel and everyone to get out, as if to say, I've been here for hours, like my swim skin's already down. And then I walk back around the corner and their faces just sort of,
and you had coffee and a cigarette. Or you're vaping.
And I was like, what are these guys doing? What are they around here for? And then I realized, then of course Lionel came out, and so I was like, they're trying to intimidate Lionel. So poor guy. But it's a funny old. I think I might do it in just plain swimmers this year.
Well, I have these new thong Speedos that I have. You can take one of those, and you don't get the tan lines on your butt.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Butt cheeks.
Hungry butt. Yeah.
I'm not touching any of this.
Jerry, any more questions for the big guy over here?
No, I'm thankful that you're able to do this. It's really a little different show than we've done, and we sort of delayed the two shows that we had. We had a nutrition show, by the way, coming up, which we should chat a little bit about that, so we can have some specific things from Cam to add into that nutrition with Phil. And then we have our technical program that we're going to talk about. So once Cam came into town and was available, we grabbed it and changed the format of today's show just to have an interview on Kona, because this is a very interesting change, I think, as to what Kona can potentially look like. And you've thrown something, you've thrown a spanner into the thing now that can potentially change race dynamics.
Well, if he goes in there,
it'll be interesting to see.
You go in there, race your race. You don't get caught up in all that, what everybody else is doing. I mean, you run the marathon way you can run it because you raced your race. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think the key obviously has been a lot of, I guess in some ways, criticism of people. Everyone's got an opinion, don't they? And the thing is that I'm so different to everyone. I mean, I've come from rowing and cycling and into this sport. So what is going to work for me is not going to work for everyone else. Right. I don't expect it to. I don't care what they do. I admire and admit them as athletes and respect everyone as a competitor, but I don't have their background, so I can't do what they do. So, I'm very confident. I back the people that I work with, and I believe in them 100%. And I say that people always talk to me about that at coach. I really say it doesn't matter who your coach is or what they tell you to do. You just have to believe in them. Well,
you're very loyal and faithful that way, and that's key. Once you believe in your coach, and you've done your homework and allied yourself with the leaders in the space, and you believe and you just get the work done. And interestingly, the payoff is usually 2 or 3 years down the line, right? It doesn't happen, and we are now 3 years into your So,
it's going to be fun.
A great year. Yeah.
We're looking forward to seeing what happens over there. Jer, it's always been a great episode as usual. All you guys go to coaching.tower26.com to subscribe. Go to tower26.com for more info on the program. What am I missing? Anything else?
No.
Watch this guy on the Big Island. We'll see you there. We'll bring you some live updates on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we're hoping for the best.
Thanks, Jim.
I'll see you guys in Chattanooga this weekend. If you're there, give me a shout out. For Jay Rodriguez, Cameron Wurf, Christelle Balestra, who's downstairs on her peg leg. We say bye to all you guys. Have a great day and aloha.